Welcome. I am Natalie Lucier here, founder of AccessAlly, and I am so excited to be here with Natalie MacNeil, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for, I think, over a decade at this point, and we're going to have such a great conversation about the evolution of your business and how things change over time. And also beyond that, we're going to be talking about Natalie's evolution in her business and kind of how things have shifted. So first, I want to give her a super warm welcome.
Hey, so excited to be here.
Yes. So, a little bit more about Natalie if you're not familiar with her. So, she is an Emmy Award winning media entrepreneur. She has published amazing books. She has done so many things in her career. And I want her to tell us a little bit more about her business and the things that she's done that kind of led her to where she is today. So, take it away.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. For those of you watching, wow, Natalie and I go back far. We went to the same university in a pretty small city in Ontario, Canada. And we connected shortly after graduating. We were both starting blogs and I think early adopters in the online space. We were blogging about business and life and all kinds of things. And that's how we initially connected from my memory. And at the time, I was writing a blog called She Takes on the World. And at the same time, I was building a production and media company. Shortly after that, landed my first book deal. And then She Takes on the World took on a life of its own. And it's a business that I ran online for more than 10 years, had a number of different online products and programs through that. And while I was doing that work, I was coaching thousands of women around the world. And I kept upping my training. I wanted to up my game. So I was doing a number of different certifications. I dove into somatic work, emotional freedom technique, tantra, meditation, visualization techniques, breath work. And I started weaving those into my coaching and the work I was doing with entrepreneurs. And I kept seeing the results get better. And more importantly, I started seeing people really step into their truth and their power and unlock new parts of themselves that they were able to weave into their business in different ways. And so, more recently, in the last 2 years, I have transitioned into a new business called Coaching Evolved. And we have the only ICF accredited professional life coaching certification that is a multimodality approach and where you get certified in different modalities and tools and techniques as well. So that's what I've been doing more recently. And I just love being here because the spirals of life are so important. And coming back around to this conversation, it's reminding me of how far I've come as well and reminding me of the steps in my evolution to be where I am now. So thank you for inviting me into that today.
Yes, absolutely. And I love hearing that, how much training you went through yourself and how you're able to bring that to your clients and to your businesses. So I think that's a great topic for us to dive into as well. So when it comes to doing all of these different types of things, you've done courses, you've done memberships, you've done coaching, you've done media, you've done so many things, books, right? So how do people decide what should be their next focus in their own business? So whether it is a type of media that they should be doing, maybe it's more video. I know you've done a lot of video too. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's writing. How do people decide how to kind of channel what they have to teach through the different options that are out there?
Mm. I've found over the years that there's more and more options, right? There's a new platform we can potentially use every day, new software that we can use. And I think we're bombarded with everything that's coming next and everything that we could possibly be doing or every tool we could possibly be using. And I actually see more success when we just say, I'm going to choose this one and I'm going to master it. I'm going to stick with it. Because if you are not having great results with one tool, with one platform, with one thing that you're doing, you're not going to increase your chances of success by increasing the number of things that you're doing, by going from like one to trying to focus on five and see what works. So I'm a big believer in sitting what feels most true and alive for you. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. So I like to feel it in my body. I like to sit with ideas in my body. I like to speak to the soul of whatever it is that I am working on, whether it's a new book or it's a business or it's a film. I have background in film as well. And I like to speak to the soul of that project, and I like to ask it what it wants to be and how it wants to be stewarded into the world. And the answer that I get is different often depending on what the project is or what it is that I am working on. Some things, like I'll give you a recent example. In the Coaching Evolved business, it is a multimodality approach. And I personally really like being on video. I really like doing stuff on video. I love being live. I love answering questions and just tuning in, like clearing myself for whatever wants to come through me. And I've been hearing from, mentors, from peers, like, I've got to have a podcast. Like, you have to have a podcast these days. And we started a podcast. And what I am doing, because it's so visual, because I'm guiding people through practices, because we're tapping for emotional freedom technique, I'm demonstrating techniques. The podcast just wasn't working. It was very hard for me. It felt like there was a lot of resistance and there was a lot of force to try and make it work rather than flowing with what felt like it was just natural for me and the different tools that we were using. So I ended up scrapping the whole podcast after a season, even though we put a lot into it, and just trusting that I needed to feel what was most true for me. So feel free to let things go if they're not working, and to keep checking in with yourself and with the soul of what you're creating, and just see what it wants to be and how it wants to come into the world.
All right, that is a much deeper answer than I was expecting, but I am totally on board with that, and that's actually something I do too. Is like asking, what project, how it wants to come into the world, and kind of imagining if I was in my project's shoes, what would it be like, right? So
Yes.
I think that's a great reframe for a lot of people who might be maybe bombarded, like you said, by too many strategies or too many options, and maybe other outside voices telling them what they should be doing, as opposed to really what is required for the work to come through properly. So I love that answer. That's super helpful. So another thing I know about you from having been friends with you for a while is that you've taken on a lot of different types of partnerships throughout your career and your business. So can you talk a little bit about how you come around, or kind of how you come up with these partnership ideas, like how these partnerships come together and how they have helped you scale as well? Because I think that each of those partnerships along the way has kind of, brought your business to that next level a little bit.
Hmm. I love that you're asking me this question. I love that we've known each other for so long that you know little things that, I wouldn't necessarily be asked a lot of the time when I'm doing an interview. So relationships are everything. Our whole world is built on relationship. And in business, in anything that we're creating, I really believe in collaboration over competition. Like this energy of collaboration, of two people, three people, however many number of people it is, coming together to create together and create in the world what neither of them would be able to do individually, I see as being so powerful. And I believe that this is more where we're heading in business. I think that collaborative spirit is going to expand more and more and more as we bring in these new paradigms of business and entrepreneurship and ways of doing things. So I have often collaborated in a number of ways. And I like, whether it's a tool that I'm using and really excited about, or whether it's something that I'm creating and I know that there's someone else who has a piece of the puzzle that I maybe don't have. I like finding that. And actually, most of the time, they find me. Most of the time, it's just very clear. Someone will come to me, or I'll be introduced to a new idea and I can see so clearly where that fits into my business and how it can be woven together to ultimately give our customers, like our clients, the best possible experience. And sometimes those partnerships mean that I don't make as much money, or it means that I am putting somebody else in the spotlight. Um, and to me, it's like, what is going to give the best experience to the people that we're working with? And that's what really, really excites me. And I just trust that energy when there's that energy of collaboration. I like working with people for a long time too. Like when I choose a tool, your tool is a great example. AccessAlly, been using it forever. I love it. And we've talked about it a lot in our business. We've told everybody to use AccessAlly, especially when doing our business coaching with course creators. And I love that you and Robin, when you started that, like I had that relationship with you, and you were like that with everyone I know who I've sent to you. There was this ability to get support and to receive help if somebody needed help. People aren't just a number to you either. These are people, they're humans on the other side of our list numbers, our following numbers, our revenue numbers. And so I think putting people first and always being in relationship with those people, and then being in collaboration on things that we're working with, it just makes everything more magical. So I love that about both of you too, and really respect that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, what we've realized is like in software space, there's this concept of product-led design or product-led growth, where you're basically focusing on making the best product and then hopefully people love it and they tell all their friends about it, which is a great approach. But what we've realized is that we're really human-led growth. So people like
Mm.
us, obviously the software is great and it does what it's supposed to do, but people like to come to us because of the people that work here and how we interact with everyone. So that thank you for saying that and reflecting that. That's awesome.
And partnerships too, the one other thing I'll say about partnerships is like they help us to gain momentum as well. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in collaboration with someone, it's a different kind of momentum that we're able to start building around something than when it's just me. It's also so helpful to be able to share ideas, to have ideas and feedback going back and forth, whether you're a coaching business or a software company. And the momentum that I get from all of that, it definitely takes things way further, way faster. And anyone can find those partners too. It's just opening yourself up to it and seeing what's there, seeing who would be a really good complement to the work that you do and what you bring to the table.
I love that. And I also thank you for sharing kind of the behind the scenes too. Sometimes when you do partner, like you said, you might not earn as much from a project, or there might be some other kind of things you have to work on. Like maybe they're being put in the spotlight and you're kind of sharing the stage a little bit. But also, like you said, there's so many benefits to partnering and having other people collaborate with you and get those ideas going. And also, just that connection, you get to have more connections through other people too. So
Yeah.
I love
And sometimes
all
you
of
can make
these.
a lot more too. Sometimes
Absolutely.
you can
Yes.
make more, other times you don't. Sometimes you're sharing the spotlight. I just trust that everything is unfolding exactly the way that it needs to, and just keep focusing on customer journey and customer experience and what's going to be of highest service to them.
I love that. That actually just goes perfectly into my next question, which is going to be about. So you've done online courses and now you do a certification. So how did you get to that place, and how can other people who might be considering, should I do a course? Should I do a certification? How should I create that next thing? What are some of the things that went into deciding that?
Oh, I think that I asked myself a lot of questions. And the question that started leading me down the path of doing the certification is, what is my highest service in the world right now? It's something I like to check in with myself on often. So, what is my highest service in the world right now? And the more I ask myself that question and the more I would sit in contemplation of it, the more I started to realize that what I was doing Well, it was of service and I loved what we were doing. We had a great team built around it. It wasn't my highest service for where I was in my personal journey and with everything I had collected along the way in terms of experience and wisdom and contacts and knowledge. And it was that question that led me to start asking, like, what would be my highest service in the world right now? What would be the weaving together of everything that I've done to this point? What would be the connecting the dots on everything I have felt called to do along the way? And what would that look like? And the more I put that together, I think you and I actually have a similar exercise that we do for this. I think it's similar to your spiral staircase, and I have this like connect the dots, like a constellation. I remember seeing your spiral staircase at one point and being like, oh, I love this. And I love getting to do other people's exercises that I haven't necessarily created. Sometimes that's fun too. So just looking at everything, the bigger picture to this point, and starting to connect those dots showed me that, oh, yeah, I was called to study this modality. I was called to work with this teacher. I was called to go to this place, which unlocked this. And when I laid that all out on a big map, it became clearer and clearer that putting that into some type of training, and that was also what people were asking me for. So listen to the whispers of your heart. Also listen to the whispers and the nudges from people around you, or what your clients are naturally wanting from you and what they are seeing that would be your next best step. And creating it I went through a lot of different phases of that. So different beta programs. We probably created like 3 different certifications before settling on what we're doing now. Like there were a lot of iterations of it, which can be a really messy, painful process to go through as well. And that's a part that I think is important to share. Like when you're pivoting from 7-figure business that's running smoothly, you have a product and you decide to do something else, that transition can be very messy. And I was used to really having things together after a while of being in business. And I'm like, what are people going to think? They're seeing me make these changes and tweak things and do new branding. Like we went through a couple rebrands as well as we've created it. And just trusting the process, like trusting the process, giving it time and knowing that everything is always evolving. It's whether we want to bring our conscious awareness to it or not. And it's okay for the process to be messy, bless the mess and keep going, keep diving in, keep seeing what's there, keep learning. So now we've created at Coaching Evolved this multimodality professional life coaching certification that is really awesome. And that our first official cohort that went through it, they loved it, and it's taken time. So yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. And then the path of deciding something like, do I create a certification, or what do I do as the next step in my business? I think that process of mapping everything out, looking at, especially if you've been doing the same thing for a long time, sometimes it's just injecting into that thing more of what you've learned. And I think with software, you keep on doing the version update, and we can do that in our business as well. We can just keep updating the version. And then other times you need to do more of the rebuild. And in that process, can you map out everything that you know, everything that you love doing, everything that other people share, you really serve them around? And then can you start to connect the dots and see which of those things feel most alive in you and that really light that fire in you? Because ultimately it's that fire and that passion that gets you through the times that can feel a little more challenging.
Oh, so good. Yes. And definitely parallels with the spiral staircase is kind of all the things that you've done in your life have led you to where you are today. So how can you use some of those things and, kind of leverage them or, see how they apply to what you're going to create next? I think that's so brilliant. I love that you have your map process for that too. So all of the things you said were just brilliant. And I feel like everyone needs to kind of rewatch that part because I feel like our businesses are constantly evolving. And like you said, sometimes it's just a little version update where we're just kind of tweaking or improving a little bit here and there. And sometimes it is like a whole redesign or kind of letting go of what was one brand or one version of our business into our next version or our next brand. So I think those are really wise words for everyone to kind of
With
take in.
With your business too, I'm curious because we've been in this space for a really long time, like
Mhm.
almost 15 years, I think.
Yeah.
So we end up, I don't know if you found this to be true for you, we end up building onto what we've been creating and we make the adjustments. Actually, creating something brand new is quite challenging. So
Mhm.
I find that it gets to the point sometimes though where we need to do that, where we need to do this big overhaul. But do you find it challenging to know as well, like where to dive into the overhaul? Because we've just been doing it for so long. If I was starting completely from scratch, which is kind of what I'm doing now, I would do it differently. But the building on top of, I'm
Yes.
curious just if you have a process for that piece.
Yeah, so with AccessAlly itself, so we did a big redesign of the whole plugin we started a year and a half ago, and then it took almost a whole year to kind of redo the whole
Mm.
interface and just how things work and kind of just the wizard when you create courses and memberships and stuff. So that was a huge like reimagining of how it could be. And that also kind of came like what you were saying, we knew we wanted to change things, but also people were telling us, hey, this could be easier, or I wanted to do this and it doesn't quite do it the way I want. So just kind of those two co-creation pieces of how we're going to improve and redo it. But then beyond the software, because obviously we didn't scrap the entire code and start from scratch.
Yeah.
But beyond the software, yeah, like there's so many things in our businesses that we're in our business that we're currently kind of revisioning. And so, doing more of these YouTube things, YouTube lives and doing more content in different ways is definitely something that we're kind of revisiting. And I'm actually starting also a new YouTube channel for our farm. So that's completely new and that's going to be fun for people to come along that journey on that too. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's another great example of following what feels alive in you in any given moment. And sometimes those things are whole new businesses, and other times it's about trying something like it's so present in you that you have to try it. You feel called to do that. So I love that you're doing that with the farm. I think we've both gone through over the last several years different versions of that. Like I had a website that I had set up just to offer a whole bunch of free meditations and guided breathwork practices and mudras. And it was called Soul Seconds. And it was just something I felt so inspired to create. They were all under 120 seconds. And I put it out into the world, no expectation, didn't try to monetize it. It was just something that was so present and alive in me. I had to get it out there. And I've had different things like that I've done. I remember when you were doing the raw food site, I used to download your recipes. So I just love that we get to go through these evolutions. We get to sometimes stay with a project for years and years and years and continue to build it. And other times there's something new that opens up an energy in us or sparks something in us that energy can also be poured into the things that we've been in for a longer period of time. So, yeah, don't be afraid to just try new things and follow what's alive.
Yes, follow the life in the things that you're doing or excited about. I love that.
Can't wait for the farm channel.
Yeah, it's coming soon. I started recording, so I'll let you know when it's live. Yeah, so okay, so you talked about your certification and Access Ally being part of it. So can you tell me a little bit about the systems and kind of processes that you've put in place for that? Because I know it's a pretty big undertaking, and people who might be considering starting one, they might not know. They don't want to necessarily go through that messy process that you talked about, right?
Mm. Yeah, starting a certification it feels very different from some of the other online courses and programs that I have done. And I guess asking yourself when you're looking at something and wondering, is this a course? Is this a certification? Asking, why would I want it to be a certification? Like what about this is making me feel like it should be a certification? And do you want to go through that process of certifying, signing off on someone being masterful at that work? And what is that skill set specifically that you are certifying around? So asking yourself some questions there. And then for our process in the coaching space, I wanted to go the path of our coaches being able to get um, their coaching credential through the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, which is the gold standard in the coaching space, because I think it's important to have those third parties that are signing off on your skill set, even though coaching doesn't have that core association and it isn't a regulated industry yet. I think choosing to be self regulated in a way is powerful. I think it creates more trust overall in the industry. And we've just had a lot of experiences in coaching where I think that trust has been broken at times. And people have had a certain perception of life coaching. So, for all those reasons, I wanted it to be an accredited program. And that's something that you can ask yourself too. Is there some sort of governing body association that you would want to look into working with for your own certification if it's something that you feel called to? And in that process, can you go through their criteria and maybe get in touch with someone from the organization or the governing body to see what kind of structure you have to have in place in order to be accredited? And then it comes down to all the tools of actually creating it. So I like to map things out in a lot of detail when I'm creating any kind of course, map it out in a lot of detail, but I often create as I go along because I like getting the feedback as I go along. And sometimes I can see very clearly, okay, I've taught these 3 modules. This was going to be module 4, but I need to make some adjustments based on where students are at right now. So I don't like creating a whole course on my own without that input. I like to have very detailed outlines and then create as we go along. And then, of course, when you offer it a second time, third time, many times, you can just continue to tweak it without redoing all of it. So that's something I like to follow when I'm doing courses. And then the software and the tools you choose to use, like that is such a big part of it. And does the software do what you need it to do? And what are the aspects that you really feel are important for delivering a program? Of course, you need to set up all your tech, your email system. AccessAlly has been the tool that we've used for a very, very long time, many years now, for many different courses that we've created. And it's worked really, really well for us, especially because of the support that you've provided along the way, that your team has provided. And beyond that, those are like the core tools: WordPress, AccessAlly. We're on Active Campaign. Then there's like little things along the way that you find that work really well as tools. Zendesk for customer support, because when you're offering something on a larger scale, you need a way to really efficiently manage customer support and track requests that are coming in. So those are some of the more logistical aspects of it for those of you considering.
That's super helpful. Thank you for sharing that. So, one of the things I love about all of your work is really your focus on rituals and habits and kind of the body plus obviously all the ideas and everything coming together for people. So what kinds of things can people do to support themselves when they're trying to scale and evolve their business kind of on that day-to-day basis, or that more kind of down in the nitty-gritty but not on their computer maybe?
The not on the computer part is so key. What I've realized over the years is that the more space I create for stepping away, and that's been a big part of this new business and what I'm creating now. I'm doing it very differently than how I've built companies in the past, where I have just stayed in it and felt like by staying in it, I was getting more done and I was going to be more productive. But I've come to find that creating space in every single day, taking more time off. I remember you and I were in a mastermind together. And this was back when things were really ramping up. We were scaling fast, we were growing fast. I was bringing on team and I was working so much. And I remember you saying to our group that you were making a commitment to yourself to take weekends off. You were no longer going to be working weekends. And I was like, could I do that? Could I really not work weekends? Because at the time, I was always putting in some work on the weekend. And I followed your lead on that. And I started creating a lot more space on the weekends, which was really, really good for me. And at that point, I was creating some space every day, but having those blocks of time off just recharged me a lot for going back into the week and whatever it was that I needed to do. Then I started putting in a month-long annual sabbatical, which was terrifying to take the first year that I did that. And it was a game changer to just step out for that much time and see things from a whole different perspective. In the space, I see things so differently. And it's when I see things differently that I feel I'm able to take really like big quantum leaps in my business, because sometimes I'm just at the computer and I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? What is the best strategy? And I'll spend hours just thinking about it. And I'll take half a day out in nature, out on a hike, and it's like it all just clicks together. It all just whoop downloads to me. And that's been one of, I think, the most important rituals in scaling. And it just feels so counter to what you would do to scale a business, but it's worked every single time that I have done that. And then also just in terms of rituals and habits, like how do you start your day? How do you end your day? And to me, the difference between a ritual and a habit is that a habit becomes very automated and you start to go through the motions. And one of the things I've stepped out of in my life is just going through the motions. I want to have more variety in my day. And when something is ritualized, it's something that is very present in the moment. You're very present to it. You're consciously choosing what you are diving into. So nothing is a have to for me, or I should do this. Like I'm up right now. The next thing I should be doing is my 15-minute meditation. I've eliminated a lot of the shoulds and a lot of the have tos. And if it feels good for me, and most mornings it does feel good for me to do some type of breath work, or sometimes it's more of an ecstatic dance if my body wants to move. Other times it is sitting in meditation and feeling into what would support me in starting this day. Intentions. Sometimes I journal, sometimes I don't. It's really checking in with myself and what do I need right now. And then ending the day, getting off your screen for the last couple hours, like not having screen time. If you can do it, it's hard, I know. But if you can be reading, if you can be dancing, if you can be outside, if you can just be taking that space, it's so, so powerful. And then I've been breaking the day up a little bit more too. So I have like a midday ritual now too of stepping off the screen and having a like sauna or jacuzzi or things like that I incorporate into the day and just have the day be a little bit all over the place, a little bit of everything every single day, which really keeps me energized. So spaciousness, I think, is everything. And moving more to paper, moving like ideating on paper and brainstorming there, not doing everything on my computer. So checking in with that.
I love
Travel is a
that.
big one. Adventuring in my own backyard, finding a new
Yes.
trail, finding a new spot, like keeping things new and fresh. The energy of freshness always feels really good.
Those are such great, like everything. So one thing we started doing, I think it was last year, is we started offering Nurture Fridays to our employees and ourselves. So basically every other Friday, everyone takes off. So they have kind of a 3 day weekend every other week. And kind of what you were saying, like not having that time to be always in your head or working on something really kind of clears everything, can kind of see things in a different perspective. But I love doing it during the day too, having those breaks that break everything up and refresh you. So thank you for sharing all of those.
I
They're
love that.
amazing.
And like if you're in family life, like with you, I see that you and your kids seem to do that together as well. It's like you have your family rituals and you have the things that I mean, it looks like so much fun. It looks like y'all are having a really good time over there. And I love seeing the kids in the farm and with the animals as well. So
Totally.
more, I want a lot more integration and harmonizing between work and life. Like it's all just
Yes,
one big glorious tapestry. I don't want to have the
totally.
separations of I'm working now and now I'm going to stop because it's this time and flow into this. Just all of it.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like we don't have to compartmentalize our lives. We can actually do all of the things. That's a great thing. And if they feed each other, I think that's the beauty of it, right? It's just having your downtime not on purpose, but it actually does feed into your business and vice versa. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And don't you learn so much from the kids as well? Like
Absolutely.
I was with a friend's child on my vacation these past couple weeks, and we were out in the water and we were having a conversation, and the sweetest child, and she's just like, can we stop talking? It's playtime. Let's swim. And it was just such a good reminder, of, oh yeah, what a great lesson. Less
Yes,
talking, more playtime, and that really recharges as well. So
absolutely. I love that. That's beautiful. So one more question I had, because we're kind of getting near the end, is so you've done a lot in terms of branding and positioning and all of that. So do you have any tips or advice that people could kind of take from you or get inspired by what you've learned as you've kind of evolved your brand as well?
ooh, I love this question. Mm, there's a few things that I'll share that I think are super key. And the first is the consistency of messaging and branding across all platforms, all channels that you're using. And this was something that, as we made our big transition and we started to sort of move very fast and start to update things, wasn't always the wasn't always the prettiest process. And I'm still noticing where, oh, I haven't updated that yet, oh, I forgot about updating everything on Pinterest. But that messaging across the board and getting really really clear on who you are serving, that niche is still really important. If you're a coach, like, what are you coaching on? Who are you coaching? Who are you most inspired to be working with in your business, so that you can create your brand and create all of your messaging for that one person, speaking to that one person. So that's really important, and just keeping it all consistent across the board. From there, having your signature offering, I think, is really important as well. It makes it easier, in my opinion, to really accelerate the success of your brand and your all of your marketing efforts when you're just focused on one thing. Like, have one great opt-in that you're making work for list building and for lead gen. Like, make that work, test it, and when it's working, then you can consider having another one. But I think that focus is really important for building a successful brand. Same with your product, like have one signature offer. If you're a coach, have one signature 12-week experience, whether that's one-on-one or a group coaching experience, and put your focus on the messaging around that customer journey of what can happen over those 12 weeks. What is the problem that you solve for? What is the pain point that someone overcomes? What is the transformation that they have over that time period? And focus your messaging around that and just put your effort, your resources into that one offer. So I get really focused from a product perspective, from an audience perspective, and then creating compelling like copy, stories, messaging, and allowing that to just accelerate the success of the brand and build momentum for it. And the last thing about that I'll say is that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, successful brands, sometimes you hear about something and you feel like it all happened overnight and suddenly everyone's talking about this brand. And what you don't see is that it took years and years of that consistency of making that one product work and having success and having people raving about it for that brand to actually be out there in the world in a way that people are organically sharing it. So trust the process as well and stick with it. Because from my experience, yes, there are those overnight successes sometimes, but often it comes from that consistent action, which is where all the rituals, all the habits, taking all the space, keeping your energy up, staying true to what feels alive in you, all of that plays into being able to have the energy to stay the course and to build a really successful brand that people know and love and trust.
Oh, that is so good and so such like foundational advice that you can never go wrong when you follow this. So thank you for sharing that, Natalie. It is super insightful and just yeah, people should just follow that because it is hard to stick to a niche or stick to a message or a story or a brand perspective, especially because we're constantly like getting new ideas and new things and we want to speak to that one person that we know would be our ideal customer. So that's super helpful.
I have to tell myself this over and over again as well,
Yes.
for sure. And every time I do and just drop into that clarity and that intentionality, everything starts to grow from there. So this is a lesson I've had to learn again and again, and advice I continue to tell myself too.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, same for us. We are like constantly doing this exercise. Okay, wait, who's our ideal person? Okay, let's go back to back to that. So that's
It's
great.
like the foundations are always the same, right? And I've seen this in businesses that are like making tens of millions of dollars, and I've seen this in businesses that are making thousands of dollars and just starting out. Like those fundamental questions, it's so key to get the fundamentals right so that you have that strong foundation for everything else that you dream of building.
Absolutely. Well, Natalie, can you tell everyone where to find out more about you and, all of the work that you're creating?
Yes, come visit me at nataliemacneil.com. We've got some goodies there for you. And if there was something from this interview that was an aha or that you're implementing in your business, I'd love to hear about it. If you want to send me a DM on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Natalie MacNeil. Spell it differently than Natalie Lucy. It's Nataliemacneil. So come visit us there, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here live, Natalie. It was so great to see
Thank
you.
you. So
And
good to
yes,
see you.
it's awesome to talk about seamless scaling together. And we'll hopefully be in touch soon.
Oh, yay.
Yay. All right. And we're not
So,
streaming live.
so